Hello, welcome to this series of lectures about carbonatory morphology. The lecture that you're going to hear today is actually more of a biographical representation of myself and my severe mental illness and the way in which it has changed my life and driven me in certain directions since the day I was born. Manic depression is a severe mental illness. In me, it produces symptoms on a daily basis and has done more or less since the day I was born. I experience mood swings every single day. Without medication, those mood swings can become very severe and very, very dangerous and can risk my life. So how did all of this start? Well, basically, as far back as I can possibly remember, I had very, very clear symptoms of severe mental illness. Even as a very small child, I was always much, much more sensitive than any other child I knew. I was very, very subject to profound mood swings back then, where there were times of absolute elation with tremendously high levels of energy within myself. I was born in January of 1973. A very cold day indeed, and for the first few months of my life I actually suffered with a great deal of illness. I had a physical condition that was never properly diagnosed, whereby everything I ate went straight through me. There was some concern at the time that I might literally not pull through it, but in actual fact I ended up surviving that, and then I went on to go to play school and then to primary school at St John's in Macclesfield, at which point there was little doubt about it in my mind that there was something very wrong at that point. There were clearly moments of tremendous low, moments of terrible anxiety, sickness in the morning at the thought of going to school, and this particular effect lasted all the way through my school years. Anyone who's had a severe mental illness will know that there are certain things that you experience on a daily basis that most people perhaps only experience maybe once every few years. For me, primary school was extremely tough all the way through. There were many times when there was clear evidence that my mental illness was beginning to become a problem, and I received a very, very slight amount of bullying at the time. But the interesting thing is that I actually had certain problems going right back to infancy with things like reading and with spelling. I always had a problem with that, and always felt that at primary school I was somebody that didn't really excel academically. It was only when I went to secondary school that I began to excel academically and otherwise. I was always very good at sports, always very good at football, found these things very easy to do. But what's most poignant of all is a memory when I was 7 years of age of the very first time that I found myself faced with this terrible prospect that my mood was provoking me to want to kill myself. And at the age of 7 years of age, I remember a very distinct period of time where all I could think of all the time was dying. It was the very first time I'd ever had to face up to that kind of reality, and the very first time that I'd ever had to truly get through a very serious patch in my life where I was compromised. At that age, the way that you commit suicide is very, very difficult to understand. I always remember all the way back through my life thinking if I could get hold of a gun that I would probably have ended my life a long time ago. Instead, I luckily have an extremely good family, and very, very supportive mother and father, and the rest of my family supported me, and they knew something was wrong from a very early age. There were clearly signs of mania at that point. I used to bang my head against the pillow when I went to bed at night, often for 3 or 4 hours, solidly. I would rock in the chair downstairs or rock in the chair in the car, breaking many of these things completely. But that was the beginnings of mania and hyperactivity, and I think in a lot of infants, manic depression begins to show itself early on through those types of symptoms. Hypersensitivity, tremendous anxiety sickness, usually in the mornings, periods of tremendous elation where you have immense amounts of energy and you can't stay still, something medically known as akathisia. Also, of course, these tremendous lows where I would want to stay still. I would even want to sit in a darkened room, even as a small child. So dealing with severe mental illness in the early part of my life was already a problem and already causing me a great deal of difficulty. But there's little doubt about it that paled into almost insignificance when one considers it against the way I was when I went to high school, to Henbury High School, where the whole process became considerably worse.